Welcome back. We're looking at the push for an international tribunal on the Rafiq al-Hariri killing in Lebanon. The UN set these tribunals up just twice before, in 1993 to prosecute war crimes in the former Yugoslavia, and a year later to investigate genocide in Rwanda.
It's scenes like this that have prompted the setting up of international criminal tribunals. The Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, or ICTY, began operating in The Hague in late 1993 as war raged over Bosnia-Herzegovina. Its job to investigate violations of international humanitarian law, including mass killings, mass detention and rape, and ethnic cleansing. The UN claims the court benefits the people of the former Yugoslavia because it says there's a reluctance to prosecute crimes in the countries they took place in. It's indicted 161 people, 52 have been sentenced. But the court faces many criticisms. Its highest-profile defendant, former Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic, refused to recognize its validity.
This tribunal, false tribunal, and indictments, false indictments.
His trial dragged on for 4 years. He died in jail before it was over. And seeking justice costs. The UN spends more than $120 million a year to run the court. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda has also faced mixed results in its aim to prosecute those responsible for the 1994 genocide. One of its major accomplishments, establishing rape as a crime of genocide and a war crime. But it costs twice as much as the Yugoslavia Tribunal, $250 million a year. Both courts face obstacles in getting countries to hand over fugitives, and trials often take years, leaving some wondering if they help heal wounds or only prolong the pain.
We're joined now by Claude Bruderlein, an expert in international law, director of the Harvard Program on Humanitarian Policy and Conflict Research. Thank you very much for joining us. Can we in any way compare what we might see in Lebanon with the tribunals for the former Yugoslavia and Rwanda?
Well, there is certainly issues to draw some comparison, but we have to see that the special tribunal that is being planned for the Hariri case is different. We have here an agreement between the government of Lebanon and the United Nations for setting up such a tribunal, which we didn't have in the case of the ICTY. And there is a consensus of how this court should function. Also, we have to see that after the Yugoslavia and Rwanda tribunal, there has been serious negotiation for the International Criminal Court, where there is an agreement within the international community and particularly within the member of the Security Council that the primary responsibility for prosecuting war criminals or those responsible for crime against humanity or genocide resides with the state. And in that case, the state could be available, in a case where the state is available to prosecute these cases, this is where the tribunal should be set. Now, the case we have in front of us now, a tribunal for the Hariri, is a criminal case. It is not an international crime. What happened in Lebanon belongs to the domestic jurisdiction. There's a political crisis in Lebanon.
Let me interrupt you there, if I may. A lot of people suggest there is an international dimension to this.
There is certainly an international dimension in the implications, the political and security implications associated to the deadlock in the parliament to set up this tribunal. But in legal terms, political assassination do not amount to war crimes or crime against humanity, and certainly not genocide. So we have here an exceptional situation which underlines a number of weaknesses. For example, to have such a tribunal set up by the Security Council does question somehow the sovereignty of the state of Lebanon in handling its criminal procedures. It may come back later on to haunt the tribunal, the extent to which the council had to intervene in its establishment.
Okay, I just want to ask you about the lawyers and everybody else associated with these cases, because there are thousands of lawyers, there are a great many judges involved in these cases. And when I looked at the costs for the Rwandan tribunal and the former Yugoslavian tribunal for 2 years, each one for 2 years, the costs for each one are $250 million. Who benefits?
Well, justice is expensive, but you have to see what is there to serve. You have massive grievances that are at the center of the conflict, especially in ethnic conflict as we had in former Yugoslavia and Rwanda. In such cases, to bring a sense of closure and justice is at the center of any hope for a peace process and a resolution of the conflict. So this is little money compared to cost of peacekeeping operations or bringing the conflict to an end.
Okay, let's go back to our guests in Beirut. First of all, Dr. Hilal Khashan, Professor of Political Science at the American University there. Your feeling is that Chapter 7, the ability of the United Nations to be able to sort of force people to do things at this tribunal that they might not want to do is a good idea. Who do you think is going to need to be forced to be there?
Well, we know. I mean, there are already 4 senior officers in custody for their possible role in the assassination of Rafiq Hariri, and I understand that there is a longer list of people who will eventually be called upon to face justice. There's certainly the Syrian dimension here, and the Syrian dimension, I understand, is very strong. You know, Syria was forcefully present in Lebanon, and it would have been unthinkable for the Lebanese or anybody else to kill Hariri without Syrian knowledge and approval. In fact, when the Syrian army re-entered Beirut in February 1987, the main role of Syria was to restore law and order and to take matters into their own hands. And since their arrival into Lebanon, the Syrians became in control and in charge of all security matters in Lebanon.
I have to bring in the former Interior Minister, Bishara Merhej, at this point and ask him, if I may, do you think we will eventually see those people responsible for Rafiq Hariri's assassination brought to justice this way?
I really don't know. We have now an international investigation commission, which is trying to gather information, exhibits, samples here and there. It's going to many countries, to Syria and to other Arab countries, to I don't know where. And we are establishing now tonight an international special tribunal for Lebanon. It means that we don't know the truth. That's why we have this international commission, and that's why we have now this tribunal. They are not set, they are not established to because they know the truth, because we don't know the truth.
They have to find it out. Gentlemen in Beirut, I'm going to leave the last word to somebody who's looked at all the other tribunals that there have been, international law expert Claude Brudelein. Will this tribunal for Lebanon and the Hariri killing, will it work?
Well, probably it will provide a serious opportunity to move ahead. And since there's still a position in the Security Council about its establishment, we can expect that there will be accommodation to give a last chance to the Parliament to adopt the necessary laws to set up the tribunal directly and not count on Chapter 7. But if Chapter 7 is invoked, we can expect eventually some serious legal difficulties in the implementation of the court.
All right, thank you very much indeed. That's Claude Brudelein. My thanks also go to Dr. Hilal Khashan in Beirut, Professor of Political Science, and former Interior Minister Bishara Merhej. Thank you too for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Tonight, it's been the Hariri Tribunal. Next time we come back, there'll be another subject on Inside Story. Goodbye for now.